face her, one hand raised to administer a sound slap. But Gran's hand fell back to her lap, and her bright blue eyes twinkled with a mischievous humor entirely out of keeping with the lot that had fallen to the proud Fitzpatrick family. "It seems, then, Colleen, that I've never told you about the day of your birth," she said, and her brogue, faded by time and hardship to just a hint of the Irish, was suddenly thick and rich again. Bonnie's smoky violet eyes widened in their dense, dark thicket of lashes, and she pushed a tangle of mahogany hair from her face with a dirt-smudged hand. "Did something special happen that day?" she whispered, hoping against hope that something had. Gran nodded importantly and lowered her voice to tell the secret. "Indeed, it did then. The Lord himself was there at your birth, Bonnie. He took you into his strong carpenter's hands, he did, and you, just a wee baby, of course, fresh from heaven. He smiled and held you up for the Father himself to see, and his beautiful face was all alight with the joy of you, it was." Here Gran paused to cross herself again, and she closed her eyes for a moment, her thin lips moving in a prayer that Bonnie couldn't hear. "Look then, Father," says he. "Isn't she a fine babe? A wondrous fine babe?" Bonnie could barely breathe. "Go on with you," she whispered, her heart thudding against the inside of her chest with the splendor of such a vision. "'Tis true," Gran insisted, crossing herself once more, and then rising swiftly to go back to the stove and the pot of stew bubbling there, its fragrance pushing back the stench of Patchtown just a bit. After a while she added, over one sharp-bladed shoulder, "You go on back to school then, Bonnie Fitzpatrick. And don't be disappointing the Lord, himself thinking you turned out just the way he wanted and all." Bonnie's strong little legs trembled slightly as she stood up. She smoothed her dark tangled hair and squared her shoulders, peering at Gran's rod-straight back in the half-darkness. "Is this one of your tales, Gran?" "Seen him there with me own 2 eyes," Gran said firmly. "Off with you then. And mind you don't dally along the way. I'll not be overlooking any more foolishness, and neither will the Lord." Bonnie's heart got away from her then, racing ahead in sheer jubilance, and she turned on one run-down heel to chase after it, dashing past the shanties, past the outhouses stinking in the sun, past the piles of refuse, and the curious stares of the neighbors. From that day forward, Bonnie Fitzpatrick was changed. There was a deep and tender joy within her that could not be moved, for whenever she thought of the Lord holding her up in delight for the Father to see, it took the sting out of living in Patchtown and wearing the same ugly calico dress day after day. The Mackerson twins couldn't hurt her, and soon gave up trying, though Forbes Durant, a boy who lived just 2 shanties from the Fitzpatricks, was more persistent. He laughed at Bonnie's story and dubbed her the Angel, and the name stuck, first because Bonnie Fitzpatrick claimed the Lord himself had been present at her birthing, later, when she blossomed into a beauty the likes of which Northridge proper, let alone Patchtown, had never seen. Not for a moment was her fairness lost on Forbes, who teased her mercilessly, but would have faced Goliath himself to protect her. At 17, Bonnie caught the eye of Eli McKutchen, heir to the McKutchen smelter works at Northridge, and an empire that reached from one coast to the other as well. A tall man, naturally forceful in his opinions, and broad in the shoulders, Eli had glossy, wheat-gold hair that was forever in a fetching state of disarray, along with his grandfather's amber eyes. As far as Bonnie was concerned, he was near perfect, and therein lay the seeds of future grief.